Good morning, it's Durgamata here, and today is Saturday. I started to think about doing my live at 8 o'clock. My idea is to do my lives between 8 and 8:30. But there's one thing that I like to include, and that's a poem about mindfulness. My morning lives are all to do with mindfulness. And I like to share with you some nature, because if you want to have a peaceful, happy mind, spend time in nature. It's the best way to relax and reduce stress, relax the brain and reduce stress. So today my nature is quite interesting. It's mostly green. And there are things that I found yesterday when I went for a walk. So there's oak leaves. Just let me put my phone against the laptop and I can show you properly. There are oak leaves. And some of them have got holes in because it's caterpillar season. But there's no caterpillars on that one. And then horse chestnut leaves. I had a big horse chestnut leaf the other day. This one is showing you how the surface is quite rough and the spaces between the veins are set in. Then we got this one, and this is showing how the leaves are not flat things. They're three-dimensional sculptural structures. And there are also grasses in flower. If I take it near to the video, you should be able to see the actual stamens, because grasses are wind pollinated and their stamens hang down. This one's cocksfoot grass. Look, you can see the stamens there. That shows them quite well. So that's the nature. And I thought I would be on time this morning, but I didn't have a poem ready, because the second thing I like to do is share a poem. And my mindfulness teacher is Shamash Aladina. He's it's another sculptural leaf. I think that's mallow. Shamash Aladina is one of the UK's top leading mindfulness experts. So I went to his blog, and he has a collection of 200 poems to do with mindfulness. So I thought, I'd easily get a nice poem from. He's got all different authors, all the famous people like Jon Kabat-Zinn and Thich Nhat Hanh and Eckhart Tolle. Loads and loads of different great mindfulness experts. So I read through them all, and there were some good ones, but nothing really jumped out at me. So then I went to my spiritual teacher's library site, and when I go there, I always lose touch with time because there are so many. And I've chosen a few for you, and finally the one which I like best. So, not the absence of the mind, but the tranquility of the mind is what we need to go far beyond the domain of the mind. Do not reject the doubting mind. Make your mind clear and pure. Teach it to think positively. Your mind will eventually become a real help to you. Yesterday my mind was an uneducated and ignorant fool. Today my mind is an educated and learned fool. Tomorrow, sorry, I often have a frog in my throat, don't know why. I'll start again. Yesterday my mind was an uneducated and ignorant fool. Today my mind is an educated and learned fool. Tomorrow my mind shall be a sleepless ignorance hunter. Hello, Evelyn. How nice to see you've joined. I've got an itchy nose. And it's interesting because in mindfulness, you're using your mind. You're using your mind to observe what it's like to be here and now in this moment. And today we're going to do an exercise related to letting the mind be calm and quiet and a sleepless ignorance hunter. And do not reject the doubting mind. Make your mind clear and pure. Teach it to think positively. Your mind will become a real help to you. And this is the one that when I read it, it kind of chimed inside my heart that I wanted to share with you. It's called Purify. How can I purify my mind? I can purify my mind only by looking at a flower and praying to God to make me as pure as the flower. How can I purify my mind? I can purify my mind only by looking at the moon and praying to God to make my mind as peaceful as the moon. How can I purify my mind? I can purify my mind only by looking at a candle flame and praying to God to make my mind as one-pointed as the candle flame. By looking at a flower, by looking at the moon, and by looking at the candle flame, I can purify my mind. Once purification takes place in the mind, slowly and steadily the body and vital become pure. Mental purity comes first for the illumination of the entire body consciousness. So that is some poems by Sri Chinmoy, my spiritual teacher. And now we move on to the mindfulness. I sit up nice and straight. I'll sit up nice and straight because in mindfulness you want your back to be upright and erect. Imagine there's a little thread lifting your head up towards the sky. The frogs. I should have brought a cup of tea up and I didn't. Usually if I have a cup of tea, it helps to chase off the frogs. So good morning and welcome. And the first thing to do is, what is mindfulness? And I tell this every day because many people will only ever see one of my videos. So it's no good doing it like a book and thinking, well, they read that in the first chapter. Mindfulness is an exercise. It's an exercise that brings huge benefits. It actually rewires our brain in a positive way. So the neocortex, the command center, becomes denser. There are more cells and more connections. And the amygdala, which controls stress, becomes smaller. It shrinks because mindfulness is a strategy which reduces the stress in our life. And Jon Kabat-Zinn is the famous guy who brought mindfulness into the world of medicine. And he said once, you don't need to think of mindfulness as belonging to any particular culture or religion. It's like electricity. The people who invented electricity, who discovered electricity, did a great job. But electricity is a fact of life, and it's something we use all over the world. We don't have to think, where did it come from and who were its founders? And I like to honour the background and the roots of mindfulness, especially those in Buddhism, which are very highly developed. But it's not necessary to think of that, and it's certainly not exclusive to that. Mindfulness is a practice that is great for everybody worldwide. So it's an exercise, and it's an exercise, I say, mindfulness is a bird with two wings. And the first wing is bringing your attention here and now to the moment, to this moment in time, with a kind of attitude of observation and awareness. So it's almost like you're stepping outside of yourself and observing what it's like to be me here and now at this moment in time. And the second wing of the mindfulness bird is about the attitude we bring to what we observe of ourselves here and now in this moment. And it's an attitude of kindliness, compassion, self-compassion. Absolutely no judgment or criticism. You can almost think of mindfulness as a scientific activity because you're looking at yourself, you're observing what's going on in this moment with a really sharp attention. It's not a sleepy activity, it's a very sharp and alert activity. And also it's not so serious. You can be playful in mindfulness. I sometimes think of my mind as a little child, and I'm trying to teach it how to be still and understand things better. And when it goes off, as it does, disappearing here and there on other thoughts, I just say, hey, come back and sit with me. We're doing this exercise today. Now, if you want to change anything in your life, you have to practice. If you want to build strong muscles, you have to go to the gym or lift your weights every day. And it's similar with mindfulness. If you want to tame your mind and get it on your side so it's positive and helpful and not draining your energy or bringing worries into your mind, then you've got to take time out and give it a bit of discipline. And I recommend between 2 minutes and 10 minutes, and not necessarily once a day. You can do it several times a day, especially if you're doing the little ones. Because the more times you practice, the more weights you lift, the better you become at it. And one of the first things you notice when you take time aside and sit quietly and observe what's going on in this moment, you notice your mind is restless. It's off here and off there, and you just start doing something and it disappears again. Particularly, it likes to jump away from this moment. It goes back into the past and thinks about something that happened before, or it goes off into the future and starts worrying. What'll happen? What do I do if that happens? And every time you notice that, it's not that you're not good at mindfulness. You're actually practicing mindfulness because you're noticing that your mind moved and you're bringing it back to this moment. And that's actually the exercise. That's the lifting of the weights that grows the new cells in your neocortex and makes the new connections and strengthens the positive pathways in your mind where you're thinking positive and useful thoughts rather than habitual ones. Now, one of the ways to bring your attention here and now is to use the senses. And you can look around. Where am I? What am I doing? What can I see? Or you can close your eyes to concentrate on your hearing and notice the things you can hear. There are all different ways of using the senses, and we've used some of them. I've been doing mindfulness videos most days this month. But today I want to look at the mind and notice our thoughts and do an exercise which is connected with calming the mind. I also say the mindfulness bird has two ways of behaving. It sits in its nest or on a twig, very still. And that's when we do exercises where we take time out and set that time aside, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever you want to do. You find a quiet place where you can concentrate. You sit somewhere which is comfortable, but you're not going to fall asleep in it, or you can stand or lie down. And then you do the chosen exercise. So that's the bird sitting in its nest. But the other thing is the bird can fly. And that means taking this discipline out into the world, into all the activities you're doing, so that you can be mindful when you're brushing your teeth or washing your face or eating something or going for a walk. Whatever you're doing, you can be mindful at that particular moment and notice what it feels like to actually be brushing your teeth, what it sounds like, what it tastes like. Using all your senses to be here and now in that moment, in that activity. You can do it when you're washing up the dishes, feeling the temperature of the water, noticing the bubbles, noticing the way the light reflects on the dishes. Any activity you like to do, you can bring your attention here and now. And when your mind goes on to something else, you notice it and say, hey, come back, come and sit on my lap. We're doing this exercise at the moment. And many practitioners recommend that you actually give your mind a name and you talk to it. Because we are not the mind. We are not our thoughts. And that's one of the most liberating things that you discover when you practice mindfulness. You're not trapped by the mind. You're not defined by your mind or your thoughts. You have the capacity to observe them. You are the observer, the aware one. Some people call it the soul or the spirit. And you can choose which thoughts to have in your mind. So it's kind of like one element of yourself looking at another element and getting to know yourself better in that way. So now we're going to start. Again, sit upright, imagine the thread lifting your head up to the ceiling, and then I always like to start with a few twists and stretches because I'm asking my mind to sit quietly for 5 or 10 minutes, and I don't want it to be thinking it's not being looked after. So I like to start with some twists and stretches. And then I like to take my attention to my body. I sometimes close my eyes to concentrate, and I notice what my body feels like at this moment in time. I notice the weight of it, the way it presses down. Gravity works on it. I notice where one part of the body touches another and how solid and warm it is. And it always gives me a pause for gratitude. So many gratitudes. I recommend you actually make a game out of collecting gratitude flowers every day. Studies with the brain have shown that the part of your brain that is active when you are feeling gratitude is exactly the same part when you're feeling fear. So it's completely impossible to be afraid when you feel gratitude. And that's such a useful thing to know, because anytime you are feeling anxious or fearful, immediately start to look around and reflect and think of gratitudes. And the second thing I do after I've given a little bit of attention to noticing what my body feels like and reflecting on some gratitudes, gratitude for life itself, gratitude for having this warm, solid body, this chariot that my soul drives, gratitude for having this little inspiration to share live videos every day to hopefully make somebody somewhere a little happier and more peaceful. Take your attention then to your breath and notice the inhale and the exhale. And some mindfulness exercises are purely centered on the breath, and I've done some of them this month. But today I'm just taking it as an exercise to calm my mind and prepare me. And the next thing we're going to do is actually observe the thoughts in the mind. You can imagine that you're lying on your back on a sunny day on a soft grassy field and looking up at the clouds that are passing by in the sky. The grass is warm from the sun. Hello, Pastor. I'm just doing my meditation, my mindfulness exercise on thought. Thank you for joining me. My mind was distracted because I saw someone joining me. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but you call yourself Auntie, so hello, my sweet niece from Sweden. My mind got distracted by the pop-up on the phone, and I say, hey, come back. We're doing an exercise. Stay with me, mind, and let's see what's happening. So I'm lying on my back on the warm grass, looking up at the sky and noticing the clouds that are moving by, slowly drifting across. And my thoughts are clouds. I'm observing and noticing the thoughts as they come into my mind. I'm not following them. I'm not analyzing them. I'm not holding on to them. I'm just letting them pass by. So close your eyes and just observe the thoughts as they pass in your mind. There may be something you can hear, and your hearing takes your attention. There's an aeroplane passing by now. I notice the thought aeroplane, and I bring my attention back to just letting the thought pass. The clouds move slowly across the sky. And it's that practice of noticing where your mind is and bringing it back to this present moment that rewires your brain in a strong way, builds more cells in your neocortex. It creates positive links. My mind went on to thinking about mindfulness. Now I bring it back to being calm, simply observing here and now in this moment, noticing the thoughts passing through my mind, but not involved with them in any way. And another exercise you can do is imagine you're standing by the ocean and the thoughts are the waves on the surface of the ocean. You notice the waves dancing in the light, reflecting from the waves, the sound of the waves swishing up onto the shore. And then, if you've read the Harry Potter books, there was a time when he ate some special plant which gave him gills, and he was able to swim under the water. So you imagine you're eating the gillyweed, then you're diving into the sea, and you're going deep below the waves into the stillness of the water, where there are no waves, no thoughts. Just calm, peaceful, strong water around you. No thoughts. Another way to do it is to imagine you're sitting in front of a big window, looking out over the sky, but you're not paying attention to what you see through the window. You're aware of it, but you're not engaged with it. Sometimes a bird will fly past. Sometimes 2 or 3 birds may fly past. And you observe the birds as they pass. You notice them. That's the thoughts you notice as they pass. But you don't get your binoculars out and see what type of bird they are. You don't go to the window to see where they've come from and where they're going. You just sit peacefully noticing, oh, another bird. And another bird. In a really peaceful, detached way. The birds are real, the thoughts are real, they exist. You're not fighting them. You're not trying to control them or direct them. Just letting them pass. And finally, imagine you're sitting by a little stream and watching the water as it flows by. And from time to time a leaf floats past. The leaf is a thought. So you're sitting by the stream and you're noticing the current is carrying a leaf along. Maybe 2 leaves pass by. You may notice how they move a little bit, up and down perhaps on the current, maybe twisting slightly, turning smoothly as they pass by. But you're not paying attention to how they're moving. You're not noticing anything about them. You're just noticing, oh, there goes another leaf. And watching it as it passes and goes round the bend and out of sight. And then, when you're happy that you've spent as much time as you want to on this mindful exercise, you bring your attention back to your breath. Your breath is a friend you have with you all the time, from the moment of your birth and the first breath you take. Throughout your life you have that breath. Notice the breathing, the inhale and the exhale. And then I like to rub my hands together. This is my habit. It's not something you'll find in a book. But when you rub your hands together, you get a friction that makes a little warmth. Mindfulness is all about loving and accepting yourself just how you are, here and now. No criticism or judgment, just a sense of self-acceptance and love. And as you feel that love growing in your heart, appreciation of the unique sense of being yourself. Nobody else is the same as you. We're all absolutely unique, and this moment is unique. It's just here and now. Let that sense of love and gratitude flow out into the universe to embrace everyone, especially the people who are here. Possum Auntie, Possuman Auntie, and Evelyn, Anna, Kat, I think. I'm just going to do a screenshot so I have your names and I can thank you for coming. How amazing. How fantastic to be able to connect with people from other countries and other parts of the world through the little phone. Gratitude for the phone and the technology. Thanks for coming, and have a very, very happy day. And I always finish like I started, with a few stretches and twists and gratitude for having a body that will sit still and be patient while I'm doing my exercise. Take care and have a great day. Bye.